The following is a production of Notch 6 Media.
It's the Notch 6 online podcast, episode number 53. In this episode, MTH Trains 2015 Volume 2 catalog is here, and we have another great catalog show for you on deck. Hear about all the new big locomotives and rolling stock in the brand new catalog, direct from MTH's very own Andy Edelman, and it's all right here on Notch 6.
This is the Notch 6 online podcast. Notch 6 is the podcast dedicated to O-gauge trains. Whether you're collecting, operating, or just getting started, Notch 6 is your home for O-gauge news, events, and interviews. Now here is your host, Derek Thomas.
Well, welcome to another episode of Notch 6, brought to you each and every episode by our friends at Trains.com. That's Trains spelled with a Z. At Trains.com, you can pre-order all of the brand new MTH items that we're going to discuss in this catalog show. So hop on over to Trains.com to pre-order all of the new MTH Trains in this catalog. Well, welcome to another episode of Notch 6, another catalog show. And man, these things are just clicking off one by one. And it's reminding me how quick time is going. But with every new catalog comes a new chance to get excited about the innovative products that are being introduced into the O-gauge market. So I'm not going to take a lot of time here at the beginning of the show today to really talk, because we do have a full episode. Two quick things I want to mention to you. Number one is that we would ask you to follow along with the new catalog at MTHTrains.com. That way you can browse through the catalog while you listen to this catalog show, and so that you can hear about all of the new items as we discuss them. The other thing that I want to mention real quick is the brand new Notch6.com. We've overhauled the website for the first time in 2 years, and this is a major facelift for Notch6.com. The biggest part of that is we are now including O-gauge news and O-gauge videos from all around the web, and you can get all the latest news from all your favorite manufacturers, from your favorite O-gauge sites. You can get the latest videos from some of the best known folks on YouTube who work in O-gauge, and it's all at your fingertips at Notch6.com, the brand new Notch6.com. And we'll also be posting pictures there from some York announcements, and we'll also post all of our breaking news there as it happens. The brand new Notch6.com. Be sure to check it out. We will be right back with MTH's Andy Edelman right after this word from the Lionel Collectors Club of America.
The LCCA invites you to attend their 45th annual convention July 20th through the 25th in Danvers, Massachusetts. If you like Lionel Trains, LCCA commemorative products, real trains, and want to tour the Boston area, you won't want to miss this spectacular event. We have great tours scheduled for the whole family to enjoy. Don't delay. Join the club and reserve your spot today.
This is Notch 6, your first source for breaking news and in-depth interviews in the world of O-gauge.
Well, welcome back to Notch 6. It's time for another MTH catalog special. We're right in the throes of MTH's 35th anniversary. Happy to have back with me Andy Edelman, Vice President of Marketing for MTH Electric Trains. Welcome back, Andy. Good to have you again.
Thank you, Derek. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk about our new catalog and our 35th anniversary and all the great things that are going on here at MTH.
Absolutely. Are you guys all loaded up on birthday cake yet, or is there still more to come?
Well, there's still a lot more to come. I mean, we're only into the second quarter now of the year, and we kind of started the celebration last fall with the 2015 Volume 1 catalog, and we've got some special items that were featured in that catalog that we're also featuring in the latest catalog, and we're going to be announcing some specials throughout the course of the year that folks will be able to buy that kind of oversee the history of the company in certain ways, different types of products. It should be kind of neat. There'll be a program name for it and so forth, and I think people get a kick out of some of that stuff. So we're gonna make hay with the 35th anniversary. It's amazing to me. One thing I always tell folks is it's 35th anniversary of MTH, but it's also my 35th anniversary in the industry, and I'm just dumbfounded as to how long I've been doing this. It's been great, but it's crazy how long it's been.
Yeah, we were just talking before we went on the air how fast the years are clicking off between some of these releases of items that you're going to get to see back in the catalog. And yeah, the years go fast.
They certainly do, and you have to appreciate them. And one of the great things about this industry is the people that are in it, both from the end user, the consumers that we see at various shows like the York events, as well as the competitors and your co-patriots, if you will, in the industry. These people you see all the time, see them on the road, you see them at events, and it's been a great industry to be involved with. It's certainly a super good time.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to dig into this catalog here. For our listeners, MTHtrains.com. We want you to follow along in the catalog. I'm going to stick to sections today in terms of we'll look at Railking first, Premier second. We'll take a quick glance at European, and I may jump around a little bit within each block in terms of the Railking things. I may jump around to freight cars and a couple of the different steam and diesel locomotives. But for the most part, you can follow along with us in the catalog at MTHtrains.com. So if you're not there, get there, open up the catalog, and flip along. A couple of things that I want to hit right off the top of this. One of the things users should be looking for in the catalog there are little video icons that appear next to certain items in the catalog. Tell me about those videos.
Well, as people know, we've been putting videos together for years on our product, and whenever we have a sample of an item, whether it be a production sample or a pre-production sample in some cases, we'll try to do some video work with it, and we'll post that video to our YouTube channel, and usually list it on our video archives right on the website, MTHtrains.com. And we'll also hook those videos right into these interactive catalogs, so that if you're looking at a boxcar with flashing lights on it, we may have a video of that in our YouTube archives. And when you click on that little icon, it'll pop up a video inside your window of your interactive catalog, and you can see what we're talking about. It's awfully difficult for folks to really get an understanding of what some of these products do, unless they see them in person, and you can't always do that, so the video is the next best thing to it, and we do our best to try to incorporate that whenever we can.
Yep, so look for those little yellow circle icons as you flip through the catalog. If you're doing that on the MTH Trains website, make sure to click those, and it'll give you a great idea of what's coming when you order these products. The second thing I want to talk about today is the DCS app. Give me an update on where the development of the app is at and when we can look forward to seeing this.
Well, as you know, Derek, we announced the app about a year ago, I think the spring of 2014. Actually, we may have hinted about it in the fall of 2013. But the app development was moving along over the course of last fall, but not as fast as we wanted to. We ran into some hiccups, and we actually kind of switched over and got into a new developer who's moving along much faster than the previous one, and there were some different issues on both sides of the fence regarding that need to switch. And so the end result is the app, both the iOS and the Android versions, should be out in the early summer. Last fall we had targeted March-May timeframe, March, April, May timeframe for that app to be out, and we've actually moved it back a little bit to June, July, and the hardware itself, there's a Wi-Fi box that the app talks to. That Wi-Fi box plugs into the DCS's TIU, track interface unit, and that's how you have your control using your smartphone or your tablet. And that box will be out late summer, early fall, so we're actually going to make an October target date for everything out and available for the consumers, as opposed to the late spring time frame that we had made last fall when we last promoted the app in the 2015 Volume 1 catalog. So we're a little disappointed in that, but we're very excited about the things that this new development team is bringing to the table. And it's a bigger outfit than what we had originally started with, and so we're getting a lot better development, I think, out of it, a lot more possibilities, and that's the beauty of these apps, is that what you start with is not necessarily what you'll end up with. You know, the DCS system has a physical remote in it when you buy it, and there's not much you can do with that remote. You can release new software for it, but physically the remote pretty much stays the same. The apps can change dramatically as time goes along. So once folks start getting into this app, as we continue to pour resources into the development of the app, it'll look and change. Its look and feel will change, and for the better. And one of the beauties of it is we'll be able to incorporate directly into that the feedback that we'll be getting from folks. So we're excited about that. It can't get here soon enough, I can tell you that. We're not pleased with the fact that it's behind schedule, but we're super excited about what it's going to bring to the table for us. So look for a lot of promotion in the late spring of 2015 and into the summer with a specific targeted date of release in the fall. And again, we're looking September, October. And kind of think of it as the way the Samsung does their announcements and the way Apple does their announcements with specific launch date. I think that's what you'll see from us as we get into the late spring and summer when we start talking about when that specific date will be in the fall. So stay tuned. It's going to be great. We're super excited about it and appreciate all the patience that people have had with it.
To follow up on that real quickly, with the change in the development team, are there going to be features added into the app that we haven't seen yet in the beta versions that have been in York? Or are there some surprises coming that you can kind of key us in on?
Well, there's what people have seen up to this point in time with the beta versions that we showed last fall and early in the spring of 2014. That was just a taste of what the potential of this thing is. So the answer is there's going to be a lot of stuff that people have no idea that the system was going to be able to do when it comes out. There's no question about that. We never really revealed a lot of details, and that's part of that problem with revealing the details with the previous team was that they were just running behind and getting those details done, and it kind of led to some frustration, I think, on both sides of the fence. But regardless, the answer to your question is absolutely. There's going to be a lot of things that people didn't know it was going to have, and one of the things that I tell folks all the time, when you're looking at an app, the concern with a model railroading environment is that you're staring at this phone or the tablet instead of paying attention to your model railroad. The idea here is not to play with a phone or a tablet. The idea is to run your trains. And we want to make the app able to do that without being a distraction. And so some of the things that the version will have are gestures that allow you to not have to look at the screen when you're running your trains. So, for example, just the control of speed of a locomotive. Instead of dragging your finger along a speedometer, which is what we showed I think we have a little video preview of the original beta version on the website. Instead of having to do that, you can actually just put two fingers on the screen, spread them apart an inch or two, and rotate your fingers as if you were turning a screwdriver, counterclockwise or clockwise to speed up or slow down the train. So the speedometer's big, so it's easy to put your fingers right there and twist your wrist to make the speed go up or down. If you want to stop the train but maintain your forward direction, you do a two-finger swipe down the screen. The train stops. And then put your fingers back apart and spread them and twist again, and the train will again pick up speed and go back in the same direction it was going. Want to go in reverse? Do a three-finger swipe. Now the next time you rotate your fingers on the screen, the engine will go in reverse at whatever speed you set by rotating your screen, so your fingers. So the point is that you're not looking at the screen to do that kind of stuff. And that we never really detailed in much detail, and we're expanding on those types of things, those types of gestures to make it easier for people to be immersed in the model railroading experience and not so much on the app itself.
That brings back some of those sensory feelings that are lost through the loss of the remote. And I've heard that mentioned a lot, that I missed the knob, I missed the thumb wheel, and being able to move to those kind of gestures, I think, helps replace some of those sensory items that may have been lost in this transition.
Well, it certainly does. But the other thing that I think offsets the lack of the physical tactile feel of a remote is the fact that doing things with the app versus doing them with the remote is so much easier with the app because there's so much more information on the given screens that you're in than we are able to do with a 4-line grayscale LCD screen on the physical remote. So when you're driving in to do adjustments to the engine, volume adjustments, or whatever kind of things you want to do, on the current physical remote, you have to hit the menu button or use the soft keys and drill through several screens to get to wherever you may be trying to go. But with the app, most of that stuff is on one or two or three different screens. So it's one or two button pushes, and then you're there. And so you'd spend less time actually monkeying with the functionality of DCS and Protosound 2 and Protosound 3 with the app than you did with the physical remote, because we're able to put more information on a given screen than we were able to do with the remote. So I think that in reality, my concern was the same thing, that you're going to give up this feel and form of the physical remote, and you're going to be staring at a screen. And in reality, when you're using this technology, you're not doing that as much as I was afraid you would be, because there's more stuff on that screen, and we've incorporated the gesture type functionality as well. So I think that, yes, it'll take some transitioning for folks to get to it, but I think they'll find that it's actually easier to run DCS and run our trains with the app than it is with the remote in the end.
Let's move into the Railking section of the catalog, and my first observation, just having flipped through the catalog and also going back and looking at the Volume 1 catalog for 2015, Volume 2 this time around, especially in Railking, is really all about the steam locomotives. There's a nice mix of diesel and a couple of electrics, but it seems really heavy on steam, this catalog, versus Volume 1, which was pretty heavy on diesel. Is that something that you guys plan in the offices, that, okay, we're going to focus on diesel for Volume 1, steam for Volume 2?
No, it mostly has to revolve around the workflow of the production schedules, and whether or not we're behind schedule or catching up and on schedule with the various product categories. So Volume 1 of 2015 with Railking was really just a recatalog of what we had put in 2014 Volume 2, because we were running behind on delivery of those Railking steam locomotives. We're now caught up, or almost caught up. By the time this catalog product starts to ship, we will be caught up, and so we wanted to infuse more steam into the product line, because we had not done that in 2015 Volume 1. Now, that wasn't true with Premier, but in the Railking category it was. So that's why you see more of it here. It's not a conscious decision to say, oh yeah, Volume 2 will have more steam than Volume 1. It all revolves around our production capacity and scheduling.
One of the exciting things that I like about the Railking line, this catalog, is not only is it heavy on steam, but it's heavy on streamlined steam locomotives. If you like streamlined steam, you can get a Hiawatha, you can get a J-Class, you can get a Chesapeake and Ohio Yellow Belly, you can get a Daylight GS4. What a great catalog if you like streamlined steam locomotives. And again, conscious decision, or it was just time to bring these back into the line? Well,
it's kind of a combination of the two. The streamline, we usually wouldn't put this many streamlined locomotives into a given catalog, but in a lot of cases, these engines had not been done in a long time, and it kind of made sense to do it. And then when you step back and you look at it and you go, hey, these are beautiful looking locomotives. They're different from, the standard black or Brunswick green that you'd see in 2015 Volume 1 and 14 Volume 2. So you go, hey, let's spice it up a little bit, and the streamlined engines certainly bring that to the table. They are neat looking locomotives, no question about it, but in most of the cases, you look at the C&O Yellow Belly, it's been a long time since we've done that. The Hiawatha, same thing. So now folks are going to get a chance to get these locomotives with wireless tethers, Protosound 3, and in a lot of cases, some of them have been upgraded to Imperial status. So from that standpoint, it makes a big difference, and it makes justified to bring them out. So that's why you see it.
Give our listeners a quick reminder about the features that will bring a model into Imperial status in the Railking line.
Well, typically we'll infuse a little bit more detail. Instead of having a molded coal load, for instance, in the tender, we'll put real coal. We'll add tender truck chains to the tender trucks. We'll light the firebox glow in the back of the cab. We might paint the cab gauges and so forth. We'll put cab figures into it, things like that. It's not a huge difference. It's certainly not a retool. It's just a tweaking of the mold and adding some enhanced features, detail features, and functionality that would not be present in a regular Railking or a rugged rail steam or something like that. And really, when you look at the price difference between an Imperial locomotive versus a regular Railking locomotive, it's not a huge step up in price. But the perception of value because of those enhancements in the detail really makes them a great deal. I think people look at Railking Imperial Steam and they're taken aback by what they're getting with the features and the value and the product. So it's a great selling tool from our perspective, and kind of is what the incentive is to enhance these models and do that type of upgrade for, because people appreciate that value, and they're selling quite well.
The other big steam locomotive that's in the Railking line this time around, and you know, it has been 2 big years of Big Boy, and Railking is now introducing the Big Boy back into the line. Great timing, I guess, from the standpoint of, okay, you know, both companies have done it from the big Premier line and the Vision line, and now we've got something that kind of goes out and satisfies the rest of us that just don't have that kind of money sitting around.
Yeah, I mean, the Railking Big Boy has always been a great deal. Our Challenger, our Triplex, same thing. You know, what you're getting for that price point is just a terrific deal. And the beauty of these engines is they're small enough that they can run on most people's layouts. Not everybody has room for big 072 and larger curves that a Premier line Big Boy demands, and frankly looks good on. You know, we can say, yeah, it'll run on 072, but they look better on a much bigger curve than that. And
you need to get to 96.
Yeah, you really do.
Before it doesn't start to look goofy.
You really do. And so with the Railking Imperial Articulateds, you're not you know, really obligated to get that big of a layout. And then, you know, you've got the Imperial enhancement, so it makes a ton of sense. The other thing that is really indicative of what these Railking steamers bring to the table in terms of value is we've also created package sets in some of the SKUs, and they're just a tremendous value. I think the MSRP on the separately sold Big Boy is $799, and you can buy them with a passenger set or a freight set for $929. So then those are MSRP prices. So for another, you know, $130 or so, you're getting 4 cars, 5 cars, whatever, between the freight and the passenger versions, and that's just a heck of a deal. It's hard to pass that up. I mean, our cars separately sell for anywhere from $50 to $80. So it's a tremendous deal from that perspective, and those things have done very well over the years. You'll continue to see that kind of configuration in steam locomotives that we bring out in Railking, and we do it in Premier as well, so it just works super well. But the Big Boy, it's a classic engine. It deserves to be in the line probably more frequently than it has been over the years, because it's the Big Boy. Everybody knows it. The one 4014 is being reconstructed, and it's just a tremendous piece to have in your product line. It's a great representative of real history in a model railroading environment.
I want to spend just a moment here on an electric engine that's making its return to the line for the first time since 2010, and those are the EP5s. Again, you know, another great engine to bring back to the line that hasn't been seen in a while. What's new on the engine now that it's back?
Well, the big difference with this version of the EP5 versus previous releases is the inclusion of Protosound 3. And for most people, operationally, you don't see a ton of differences in terms of accessing features and functions, whether it be in conventional mode or in command mode. But Protosound 3 obviously brings some attributes that the previous version of the EP5 equipped with Protosound 2 did not have. Most importantly being the lack of a battery. We use a capacitor-based system to store energy so that the train continues to function when it hits dead spots. Sound continues to stay on, lights stay on. And that's important mainly in a conventionally operating environment. But it certainly is a big issue for folks, and a lot of people appreciate it. And so this engine has that. And the other big thing with Protosound 3 is the availability of LED lighting. So all of the lights are controlled by LEDs instead of incandescent bulbs. Big advantages to that. Long lasting for sure, and cooler running and low amperage draw. So whenever you can infuse LED lighting into your model railroading products, you get some big advantages out of that just from an operational standpoint.
Absolutely, and we'll touch on the LED lighting a bit more in the Premier line here in just a few minutes. I want to touch base on one part of the Railking rolling stock for just a minute, and that is the 4 new MAP cylindrical hoppers. Yeah, try saying that 10 times fast, folks. Those new MAP hoppers are just, they're neat. And you and I were talking about this. from a collector's standpoint, these have found a really big following. Some of these cars that originally sold for, $40, $50 are now bringing over, $200, $250 for these map cars. But you guys don't look at it like that when you guys decide to bring stuff like this back into the line. How do you make a decision that, this is missing, we need to do more?
Well, that's a good question, and frankly, we don't do a good job of finding out what's missing in our line because our line is so big, and we tend to omit things that would be a no-brainer to most folks because we just don't think about it because there's so many things to do. The map cars, though, have always done well for us, and when we first started doing them, we kind of boogered up some of the promotions. The map cars, in some cases, I don't believe it's the case with these cylindrical hoppers, but in the past, we would have a map on one side and then the railroad logo on the other side, and we would be stupid about that and promote the car with the logo out instead of the map out in the catalog images, and people didn't even realize what we were doing, just to show you how screwed up sometimes you can be when you're slamming these catalogs together at the last minute. The art designers and the researchers and the project managers would get very annoyed with us when we would do that because we were failing to show their hard work. But people discovered it, and as you said, the values went up. We don't pay a lot of attention to the values of the product. It's all about how an item sold, how quickly it sold, and whether or not it's still available in the marketplace. We have a great tool for determining availability of product. It's called our product locator. And it allows our retailers to list a given item that they have of MTH's in their store available for sale. And folks can determine that that item is available at a given retailer's location by using our search function on our website and clicking on the product locator tab. And that will reveal the list of retailers who are reporting that given item in stock. So when we go back and are picking a product line, we'll look at similar items that we're planning on including in there, and it could be map cars, it could be tank cars, it could be whatever. And we'll look and see on a given paint scheme, a given railroad, if they're still relatively easily found in the marketplace. If they're out there, then it may not be a good choice to do. So that helps us really kind of guide what we're doing in the product line, in addition to all of the consumer input submissions that we get. We get a couple hundred a week from folks who fill out our online submission forms and tell us what they want to see. And we do document all of that. It is amazing how many thousands of requests that we get every year from our fans, and that does go into determining what goes into the catalog. But these cars, it's a little different move for us because it's a different type of car that we're putting the maps on. But they've done well in the past, and we would expect these to do quite well as well. The railroads are a little bit different. And in some cases, very popular within their region. The Northern Pacific, certainly, we've got a good following up that way. Long Island has done well. It'll be interesting to see how that car does. They're colorful-looking cars, so we're excited about the potential. And based on what we've done before, we expect them to do well.
I got to ask you, during production meetings, when you guys are sitting down and picking out, okay, we're going to make this, 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 and this, as a staff, are there ever arguments between you guys in terms of people will feel very strongly that, hey, we're missing this from the line, we really need to bring this back? Or, I guess, do folks play favorites in the MTH office between, okay, we like this kind of freight car but not this kind, things like that?
Well, we're all about sales. So it really boils down to whether or not we think something is going to sell well. But we do have some spirited discussions on what goes into the catalog. And in some cases, it will get vocal when somebody feels very strongly about something. And if the documentation, the support, backs up that particular item, in terms of sales, in terms of market interest, all these other little criteria that go into it, then that person is going to win that argument. And in some cases, they may win the argument if the car is unique enough and the concept is unique enough that we haven't done it before, and we'll give it a whirl. We're not afraid to fail. We've laid some eggs out there. Everybody has. And that's okay. It's better to try than not to try. That's kind of our philosophy. So yeah, there'll be spirited discussion at times, but we try to back up, any decision making based on what we've seen before with like items in the product line, and that's usually a way to prevent failure. But again, we're not afraid to try.
We're going to move on to the Premier section of the catalog now, and I want to start with something that was introduced in the last catalog, and that was the Premier Big Boy. Can you give me an update on production status of that locomotive and when we can expect to see it on retailer shelves?
Well, the big difference with that locomotive versus any of our previous O-gauge Premier locomotives is the inclusion of a smoking whistle. We developed a smoking whistle for our one-gauge triplex back in 2007 or 8, I believe it was. And we never downsized that particular concept to O-gauge. Our intention was to do it all along. We've been hinting that would be something that we would do. But we never got around to it because of other things that we were doing with whether it be the DCS system or what have you. So anyway, it's time. And so the issues with the Big Boy's release hinge on the modifications that we have to do to the tooling to house the second smoke unit, and any changes that we have to do with powering that smoke unit with the ProtoSound 3 system. Because when we developed the smoking whistle previously for the one-gauge triplex, it was driven by our ProtoSound 2 system. So there's two factors that go into the scheduled release of that locomotive. One is the tooling modifications and the design of the mounting and whatnot for the smoke unit to power the whistle. And two is the software code that has to be developed to generate the smoking whistle. And the way that whistle works is when you blow the whistle button, if the smoke unit for the whistle is on, smoke will come out of the whistle. But that's not the end of it. If you choose to use the quillable functionality of the whistle, and quillable whistles are those that you can control in tone and pitch, in our case by using the thumb wheel on the DCS remote control system. On our app, it'll be a slider that you'll use to control the pitch and tone of the whistle. But the smoke for that whistle, when you're using the quillable function, actually changes in intensity based on the tone and pitch of the whistle. So as you move the slider up and down or roll the thumb wheel back and forth to change the pitch of the whistle, the amount of smoke that comes out of that whistle changes as well. So that's some significant code that has to be written. Fortunately, we've done it once in the ProtoSound 2 version for the Railking one-gauge triplex, so we're able to kind of work off of that code. So the release date for that engine was always set for the third quarter of 2015. It's still on schedule. I think when we initially promoted 2015 Volume 1, we had a March 2015 delivery date for that engine, which was wrong right from the get-go. We never caught it, and that went out in the dealer price guides for 2015 Volume 1 last fall. But it's actually going to be in the fall of 2015 when that engine comes. So everything's still on schedule. I'm hoping that we'll have a sample that we'll be able to video and distribute later this spring. I know we'll have one. It's just a question of when. Is it in late April or late May? I don't know yet. But once we get that, we'll certainly put that up on our website and on our YouTube channel so folks can get a handle on how this thing works. It's going to be cool.
The other big engines, well, there's two big engines in this Premier line of the catalog. The return of the triplex, now with ProtoSound 3.0. What's going to make this triplex different than the Proto 2 version? Does Proto 3 give the operator any new options?
Well, in terms of functionality, no, it does not. It does have the potential for new options as we release different software for engines, assuming we elect to do that, because the ProtoSound 3 technology is significantly improved over what we have with ProtoSound 2, and the improvements typically lie in the size of the microprocessor. It's able to crunch more numbers. It has a better amplifier, and it has more onboard memory. So those three things right there allow us to do more as we develop the technology and the features and the sounds and whatnot. We've talked about for the NNWJ, recording the sounds for the NNWJ that's being reconstructed, 611, and providing those sounds for the end user to put into their locomotives, whether they be the Railking or the Premier versions, because they will be able to take advantage of this better sound system, the better sound quality that we're going to gain from recording the new sounds. And, we can have coolable whistles and things like that, and that we never had before. And so if we did something similar, obviously there's no triplex out there to record, but there could be other features and functions that we could develop over time by having the Protosound 3 platform in this engine versus the previous release, which I think was back in '06, gives you the ability to take advantage of that as we release them. So that's the big thing. The same cab numbers that we had before, because there were only 3 of these engines. Obviously, Protosound 3, you have the LED lighting, you have the no battery system, so there's some function that's better than what you had in the Protosound 2. But really, for the most part, it's a chance for the end user who did not take advantage of the Protosound 2 release when it came out to buy this engine and get the latest and the greatest in the technology that we offer. So that's really the compelling reason for the end user, and it's just a matter of whether the triplex is of interest to them.
You brought up the other big engine that I want to talk about, and that is the Norfolk and Western A-Class. And now between these two catalogs, we have the steam trifecta, as it's known, as the A, J, and the Y. And just great to see these big engines continue to sell well and continue to be reintroduced into the line with these new features. Well,
the one thing that I always like about an articulated engine is there's just, and I think it's true with any steam, frankly, but when you watch a steam engine run down the rail, whether it's in real life or on a model railroad, there's nothing like it. I mean, there's a ton of moving parts going on. And when you see these articulateds, we're able to capture not only the moving part vision that one gets, but we also infuse the sound so that it also replicates what you have going on in a real-life articulated locomotive. And a lot of people may not realize this, but it's essentially 2 separate locomotives that are running under one big boiler. And the sound sets, and we've been doing this in Protosound 2, and obviously have continued in Protosound 3, take into account the fact that those 2 drivetrains will get in and out of synchronization with one another as the locomotive runs, just as they do on the real railroad. And we're able to capture that with the technology that we have. So as you watch an engine creep by you at, say, 10, 15, 20 miles an hour, something like that, you will distinctly hear those 2 drivetrains go in and out of sync with one another. So in a normal thing, when everything's synced up, it's 4 chuffs and 4 puffs of smoke for every wheel revolution as the train goes past. But as time goes on, one of the drivetrains will get out of sync, and so then you can distinctly hear that happen with the chuffing sound effect. And you can tell that it's changing. Visually, you can tell that it's changing as well, because the smoke unit puffs out differently in exact time with the drivetrain chuffing sound effect. So that's something that we've been doing for years, and it really brings to life these big articulated engines. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Class A or a big boy or a triplex or what have you. There's a lot going on with these locomotives as they go past, and I think that's why you'll continue to see them be reissued as time goes along in our catalog, whether it be in O gauge and in Premier or Railking or our HO models or even our G gauge models. You're going to see these things come in and out of the line every so often, because they're just magic, and that's really what it's all about, is recapturing what life had on the real railroad and putting it into a small scale in your house and just soaking it up. It is an incredible thing to see and hear and feel. It is very neat to watch these things, especially turning out the lights in the basement or the training room or wherever you're at, and just letting the lights off the building and the sound, and the lights will every once in a while catch a wisp of smoke, and that's part of the things that make these things special. And that's, I think, what is the big draw to this hobby, is the visuals and the sounds and the smell, and it's all in miniature. It is, and I think the other thing, Derek, that people don't really think about too often is that the consumer today, and it doesn't matter what scale you're in, is spoiled rotten, if you will. That we are. With what you're able to do now with these products. I mean, 30 years ago, there were brass articulated engines, but they certainly didn't do what they do today. And, the functions and the features that all the manufacturers are infusing into the products really just bring out a product line that is unmatched in what the hobby has ever had, and it bodes well for the future of the hobby. It's important for the consumers of these products today to share their experiences with other folks and get more people into the hobby. And going off on a tangent, but the opportunity to impress other people who aren't in it is unfounded today compared to what it was in the past because of what these things can do. I mean, it's just amazing the importance that the technology has had on sustaining the hobby and growing it and moving it forward.
Absolutely. We're going to shift to the complete other end of the steam spectrum. We're going to go from these giant articulateds down to a little 040. The A5 switcher is back in this catalog, and this is probably almost, if you ask me, more impressive, the fact that you guys have managed to pack Proto 3 into such a tight space. What kind of challenges does that present for your team when you guys try and figure out how are we going to get this in here?
Well, more than you'd think, because when I sit back, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I know that our form factor for our ProtoSound 3 board is smaller than our ProtoSound 2 board. So when we go through our product history and we're looking at models to reintroduce, part of it is based on the availability of the technology, and part of it's based on when it was last done. The A5 in this case, mid-2000s, the last time we did it, obviously came with ProtoSound 2. So I'm going, all right, time to re-pop this one, put it back into the product line. It's been 10 years since anybody has had a chance to buy one of these new, and this can't be an issue, and because the ProtoSound 3 platform is smaller. And I get all kinds of grief from the production people going, oh, we got to make sure this thing fits in here. And I'm going, well, if ProtoSound 2 fit in there, why wouldn't ProtoSound 3 fit? And they go, you don't understand. Everything is different. There's new tool that has to be done for the bracket, position of the speaker. All kinds of things are different from one model to the next. And so when you sit back and go, well, maybe it's a smaller platform, it should fit right in there. In the case of the ProtoSound 3, we're actually using two boards, one in the tender and one in the locomotive, and it's the locomotive board that I never think about. And there's other avenues for us to go to use a single board in the tender only, but then we may give up some functionality and features. So there's always issues with whatever model we pick and choose in terms of what the platform availability is and whether any tweaking has to be done or any compromises have to be made. So, but the beauty of our technology is that when given enough lead time, our guys can make things happen. And you take a small little engine like this and give it the same functions and features that you find in our big $1,500 big boys, sans the smoking whistle. There's absolutely no room for that. But you got a product that's just incredible. That's what you end up with, and it's super neat to see one of those little engines chugging along and doing everything that the big engines can do.
Something else I want folks to take note of on the A5 is they are offering a Union Pacific version that comes with a radial firebox as opposed to the Bel Pair firebox that is standard on the Pennsylvania locomotives. So Union Pacific fans, take note of that. What a perfect yard goat or something to kick cars around sidings, things like that. Definitely a switcher that's fully functioned but designed for smaller spaces.
No question about it. It's a lot of fun to run one of those engines in your yard and do what the real engines did. And because our tooling is configured so that we can do the Penzi Bel Pair and the standard fireboxes, depending on road name, you're able to get stuff that's accurate, and that's the key to it.
We're going to move over to the diesel locomotives, and the one that I really want to touch on, and this is going to have some reaction from some folks, and you and I have talked about this, but I think it's exciting because it's been such a hot item since its initial release. In the F7 line in the diesel locomotives, we see the return of the Norfolk Southern executive units with Proto 3, with matching passenger cars. This is a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. People have been begging us to do it, and our reluctance has been that we did it in our DAP program, and we kind of like to adhere to the uniqueness of that model, in that it appeared in our DAP program, but it was a long time ago. And that model is still unique, the DAP model in itself. It's packaged as an ABA set. In a blue DAP box. Very limited number of those units were built. For those who don't know, the DAP program, Dealer Appreciation Program, is something that we've done on and off over the years. and offered very limited quantities, 2 per dealer of a given item, packaged in special blue dealer appreciation packaging, and usually about a handful, half a dozen or so different items to pick from for each of the retailers. And so they're very hard to find, and that's the end result. We made a piece that was very difficult to find, even within a few years of its release, and certainly 10 years later, commanding some significantly high prices. What are you going to do? It's a tough road to haul there as to what the decision should be to run that again or do it a little bit differently and or not do it at all. And our choice was to do it differently. So this year, the unit is not being sold as a complete set as it was. It's piecemealed out. And in fact, that's true with all of the paint schemes that are being offered in those F units this year. So you'll be able to buy a single A unit or a single A and an unpowered A, or a single A and a powered A, both powered, or A, B, A in that same kind of configuration. The B units are non-powered. So you got a bunch of choices as to how you'll do that. And we started that process with our C-liners in our 2015 Volume 1 catalog, and they sold quite well as opposed to being offered strictly as an AA or an AB, ABA set or whatever. So we actually expect that all of these paint schemes will do quite well because we're giving the consumer some different choices, and frankly, when you go with just a single unit, it's less of an investment to make, and that may be appealing to folks. So we'll see how it goes. Certainly, the uniqueness of the original DAP production is still there. Anybody trying to sell one of those or procure one of those in its original packaging, there's a very limited number of them out there. So that will never change, and this gives people who have been looking for an opportunity to buy one of these units at a price that they find palatable is now present for them. We've done this particular paint scheme in our Railking line in various schemes, various models for a number of years, and they've done very well. So we know that the interest is there, and this will give folks an opportunity to get the premier version.
I think one of the other things that needs to be mentioned that I think makes the case for bringing this back into the line is the fact that the reason that these have commanded such high prices is not only the fact that they were made in limited quantities, but no one wants to let theirs go either without, getting some kind of significant return on it, because these are such sharp models. And so, not only do I think these will sell well, but I think, again, it may be another situation where the market, will heat up on these after the initial release, because people don't sell these. They sit on them.
Yeah, they do that all the time. And, it doesn't really matter what piece we do in terms of limited runs. Everything is limited in itself. We don't build huge quantities of any given item in terms of motive power in our product line. So when they sell out, we're out of them. And at that point, it's completely out of our control. Our product locator helps people locate things. But eventually, they end up in the hands of either retailers who don't use our product locator, and there's no way for anybody to find out that they got them. That's a dig at retailers who don't use it, by the way, if any dealer is listening to this. Or they're in the hands of a private owner, and you're right. It's up to him to decide whether or not he or she wants to let go of the product. And some people, they treasure these things, and it's part of their collection, and it's not going anywhere. And it could be years and years and years before even a new model that we offer in 2015 is available because a private owner doesn't want to let it go. So it doesn't matter whether, it was dressed up in the dealer appreciation packaging or any of the other special types of things we've done. It ultimately boils down to supply and demand and whether or not the suppliers want to let the stuff go.
Absolutely right. I want to touch on a couple things before we start to wrap this up. Number one, and this is a function thing, and we kind of mentioned it earlier. One of the new things for the MTH passenger car line this time around is the addition of LED lighting in most of the cars. And what helped MTH to make that decision?
Well, it was twofold. The first thing is that when we began doing our HO streamlined passenger cars, and the first ones were the Southern Pacific Daylight cars, those cars had LED lighting in them. And we did that specifically because a lot of passenger cars in HO never had lighting. Or if they did, it was extremely poorly done, with a lot of blinking going on for dead spots in the track or bad continuity or what have you. Or two, they were battery functions. There's some companies out there that use a battery system to turn on the lights, and the little wand that you touch the car with to turn the lights on, or a switch or what have you. And we just found all of those types of lighting opportunities to be less than desirable. So we developed a constant voltage, flicker-free LED lighting system for our HO passenger cars. And that was one of the reasons why those cars have done so well for us over the years. So then from that perspective, when we started doing passenger cars for some of our European locomotive offerings, we decided that for similar reasons that we would employ that LED lighting design, scale it up obviously, for our European style cars. And the end result was we now had a package that we could easily move over to our North American prototype passenger cars. And this is the year that we decided to start doing that. And there's some big advantages for the end user. Obviously, the constant voltage and the flicker-free operation is quite desirable. The lighting systems that have been in our cars, as they are in everybody else's cars that are doing O-gauge passenger, they blink. They're not on consistently. There's always issues with it, and it hinges on the cleanliness of the track and the continuity of the ground and the pickup systems and so forth on the cars. And there's ways to tweak it so that they don't blink, but you can have some blinking, and sometimes that's cool, I guess. But the big drawback to the lighting systems that were in our passenger cars and everybody else's cars is that, especially in the age of command operation, you've got 10, 18, 20 volts, whatever on the track. You've got constant voltage lighted cars from that perspective because the lights are at full brightness. And they're either burning out or, worse, they're drawing big amperage loads. And the LED system draws very little current, certainly very little amperage. And that's critical to being able to pull long passenger cars, long trains, in a command environment without tripping the circuit breakers on your power supply. So this is really going to be a big advantage for the end user to have long passenger cars without worrying about having to get more power on their railroad. And obviously the constant voltage and the flicker-free is another big advantage to it. So in the HO system, we have a capacitor that kind of stores current. I believe we'll have something similar to that in the North American lighting system. So it stores a little bit of the current. That's why you get the flicker-free operation, and obviously the low amperage draw. So we're super excited about it. I'm a little annoyed that it's taken us about 3 years to move it over from the European cars into the North American cars, but so be it. This will be the first year that we have it. And we'll probably offer kits as time goes on for folks who want to retrofit any of the previous cars that we've done.
Andy, we're going to start to run out of time here in just a minute, but I want to take a few minutes and touch on a couple of things real quick. Number one, on the diesels, I want people to take a look at the ES44AC and the GE Next Fuel paint scheme. Also in the GP38s, check out some of the unique paint schemes that MTH is putting onto the GP38s. Conrail Bicentennial, a Missouri Pacific in the Armor Yellow, which is a little bit more unusual. And again, we're seeing this from both camps, both MTH, Lionel. These guys are starting to take some risk, and like Andy said, we're not afraid to fail. So take a look at the unique paint schemes. I'm gonna really encourage people to spend some time looking at things like that. I want to ask you real quick for the foreigner listeners to the show, and we do have them. What's new in the European line that folks should be looking at?
Well, we're re-releasing the 241 steam locomotive, and that's a new paint scheme. It's featured in this catalog. We announced that in the European line, which we debut at the Nuremberg show at the early February of every year. So those locomotives are in this catalog. Everything else that's in this catalog are things that we have. There are some new paint schemes in scale-wheeled models of the LMS coaches that we have in inventory now that are available that had not been previously offered before. So, and that those are really going to appeal to most of your international consumers because they're running the scale wheel 2-rail environment type of layouts. But the 241 engines are available in both the high rail 3-rail version as well as the scale wheel 2-rail version. Of course, our Proto Scale 32 functionality allows any of those engines to run on the opposite environment. So if you buy a high rail wheel steam locomotive and you want to run it on a 2-rail environment, there's a switch that you flip. You remove the pickup rollers and off you go in the 2-rail model railroading environment, even though it's a high rail engine that was originally designed for 3-rail operation. And the same is true if you have the scale wheel version. Screw the pickups onto the bottom of the engine, flip a switch, and you can run that engine on 3-rail track. So it's something unique that we offer in our Premier line that nobody else has. A ton of functionality with the product, and makes you have something that's appealing to either marketplace. You're never kind of stuck with one market type of product with the Protoscale 32 technology that we have. So the European market continues to do pretty well for us. The European economy is not as good as it has been. Certainly the North American economy has picked up. We've seen that in train show attendance over the last 6 months or so, big attendance numbers at all the events we go to. So hopefully the European economy will rebound and product will start to pick up over there. German product's doing well, but everything else is a little harder right now because of their economy. The other thing I wanted to add to your comment about our diesels, this is the first catalog that we've done for our Premier line where we've listed the additional cab numbers as separate SKUs. So you can actually order a cab number version of a particular railroad by item number. In the past, we would just mix our cases with different cab numbers and made it difficult for folks to procure a particular cab number of their interest. The dealers had to do that for them. Now they can order them based on the item number. So that's a difference for us. We were reluctant to do that. We've been doing it in our HO and our S gauge lines, but for O gauge, we were reluctant to do it because of the volume of items that we do. It makes the order booklets that much thicker. But it's something that we decided to transition to with this catalog, so it's the first time you'll see that.
Very cool. Andy, I'll open the floor to you for a second. Any other news that you want to share with the listeners that we may not have covered before we wrap it up here?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, we want to thank everybody that is listening to the show, that has supported us over the years. This is our 35th anniversary, as we said at the top of the show, and it's certainly an exciting time for MTH. We have 6 major product lines. We're in all kinds of different scales. It's a pleasure to be in model railroading and doing what we've done over the years. And the support that we've gotten from our O gauge customers has really allowed us to grow into all of the other businesses that we have, the different scales that we have, and they're paying dividends for the O gauge modeler. The LED lighting is a good example. Protosound 3 is a good example. Multiple cab numbers, separate SKUs, all that kind of stuff is transitioning back into O gauge from the other scales that we've done, but we would have never gotten there without the O gauge support, so that's huge for us. Hopefully folks will continue to stay abreast of the news for MTH. We do have an online newsletter, and that's a great way to stay in touch with what we're doing every year, every month, every week, every day. So stay with it, and it's good to be in the hobby. We certainly appreciate all the support. MTHtrains.com is the website. You know where to find your local MTH retailer. If you don't have a local MTH retailer, they have a product locator and a dealer locator on the website. Get with your local dealer, get your orders in, and Andy, another great catalog from you guys, and it's always a pleasure to discuss it with you. I appreciate it, Derek. Thanks for the opportunity. Absolutely. We'll talk to you again here down the road. You bet. Thanks. Well, there you have it, folks. The brand new MTH 2015 Volume 2 catalog. Some awesome items. Great to see the triplex and the A-Class back in the lineup for the first time in a long time. Plenty of other things that I'm sure a lot of folks will be excited about. A lot to look forward to from MTH as we head into the not the back half, but the second, third, and fourth quarters of 2015. So many things that I want to say before we go. Number one, make sure you leave us a review on iTunes. I'm actively looking at those, and if you leave us a new review on iTunes, we will select a random winner here in the next few months, and we'll give you some goodies out of the Madison Poster Prize Closet. Make sure you do check out the brand new Notch6.com. This is a big, big jump for us, and I think if you like to keep tabs on what's going on in the world of O gauge, this is one of the best ways to do it. All of the information in one place. You don't have to dig for it. It's really easy to find, and we really hope that you'll check it out. That's it for now, folks. Until next time, keep it in Notch 6.
Thanks for listening to Notch 6. the only podcast dedicated to O-gauge trains. You can find every episode on our website, notch6.com, or on iTunes and Stitcher. We'll see you again soon. Until then, be sure to keep it in Notch 6. The following has been a production of Notch 6 Media and is intended for private use only. This show may not be copied or redistributed without express written consent. This show copyright 2015, all rights reserved.